Who's in charge when someone dies in a land that belongs to no one?
It's a mystery set in the coldest, strangest place on Earth.
It's time to preview The Secret History of Antarctica, Death on the Ice.
Then we'll discuss a true crime question of the week.
Today's question is, how long would you last in Antarctica before turning to murder or other crimes? That's on this episode of So Much Crime,
So Little Time. Before we start the show, reminder about joining our Patreon, patreon.com/so much crime, so little time.
On our Patreon, we have all kinds of bonus content. We also give you early access to shows before they come out. We'll send you some swag, and you'll get a nice shout out on the show.
What more could you ask for?
And now, here's the show.
Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff. And in this episode, we're going to introduce you to The Secret History of Antarctica, Death on the Ice from Crowd Network.
After that, we tackle a true crime question of the week.
If you haven't listened to Death on the Ice yet, that is okay. On our preview episodes like this one, we introduce you to a new podcast. We're only going to discuss the first episode here. There's no spoilers for what's to come later on.
You'll also find a link to Death on the Ice in our show notes.
In our next episode, we'll discuss the whole series. But right now, we just want to decide, is this a crime that's worth your time?
Jeff, before we jump into the story, how about we go in the time machine? This crime happened on May 11th, 2000. What do you have for us, Jeff?
I got a quick kind of round robin of some pop culture highlights. First off, the top movie in the United States in May of 2000.
Give me the tagline. Give me something.
All right, Dee, here's the tagline for the number one movie at this time. There's a couple of taglines. One of them is, "A hero will rise." Okay, wait, there's a better one.
Mm-hmm.
"Father of a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I shall have my vengeance in this life or the next."
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to give you this one, but you're going to get it for sure. "The general who became a slave, the slave who became a something, the something who defied an empire."
Is this a Star Wars movie?
No, it's not a Star Wars movie.
I don't know.
It's a Russell Crowe movie.
Oh, The Gladiators.
Gladiator. Yeah. Not only did Gladiator come out when this crime happened, but now we're like almost about to get Gladiator 2. So.
Yeah, Paul Mescal.
Okay. So that was the movie.
Okay.
I have one TV thing and then one music thing. So my TV thing is on May 31st, so a couple weeks after this of 2000, a certain TV show debuted that currently in 2024 is in its 46th season.
Is it Law and Order?
No.
Is it close to Law and Order?
No.
Oh.
All right. It has had 674 episodes over the last 24 years. The host of this show has a great first name. You might say arguably the best first name that a guy could have. It's also a show I know you don't watch because we talked about it in our last episode.
Is this the
set on
silence
an island?
And the what? It's set on an island. Oh, Alone or Survivor or something?
Survivor. It's Survivor. Yeah.
What's
Wow,
the guy who's the
Jeff.
host?
His name is Jeff Probst.
Oh, God. I was trying to think of like really cool names.
Can
Do
you
you know
imagine?
one didn't come to mind?
Wow.
Didn't even enter my mind. And it's there right in front of me in the left-hand corner.
You know, Dee, I don't even know if I want to do my flat reading of song lyrics now.
Oh my God. I love a flat read. It's so funny. Do you want me to do my song one first and then you come back with a flat read? Because a flat read is always like the best to end on.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I'm not doing a flat read of this. Or maybe I should actually, because you might know the lyrics from the older song. So the song came out for the film Flashdance. Are you familiar with Flashdance?
I'm familiar with it. I've never seen it.
Oh, well, maybe you won't know this song before.
Flashdance is from like the 80s. So this is like a cover.
And she's dancing like she never danced before.
Maniac.
Okay. So you know Maniac.
Sure.
Right. March 11th in Ireland. I just love this. This is one of my favorite songs ever. Maniac 2000 was released on 4th of March. And it was number 1 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks on the charts. So it uses Maniac as a base, as well as another song that another Irish artist took. So kind of altered. If you ever have the honor of going to a wedding in Ireland and this song comes on, you'd want to see the place. Everyone goes buck wild for it. It's excellent. It's so good. It might be, when I saw it come up on March 11th, 2000, I was like, or May 11th, 2000, I was like, this is cream of the crop.
Did you play this at your wedding?
Yeah. Like, it's so good. It's like a dance version, and like, it's just so good. Rocky, Rocky, baby, baby. Like, it's just so good. It's like a dance version of Maniac. I feel like you'd enjoy, but only if you were at an Irish wedding and able to observe everyone going mental.
All right. That's amazing. I love it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I knew you'd be old enough to remember Maniac.
Look, you're not wrong. That song was all over the radio when I was a kid, and I was way too young to see that movie, but definitely knew the song. All right. Do you want to hear my song?
Go for it.
All right. I'm doing a flat reading of lyrics of a song that in America was, I don't know whether this was number 1 song. It was definitely like a top song at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. Any other day I would call. You would say, baby, how's your day?
Do you just love Destiny's Child?
That was quick. That was quick.
You okay? Say my name.
Say my name. Yeah.
Such a tune. I should have let you read more purely because the flat reads are so gas, I think.
I mean, I can read more if you'd like.
No, it's good. Oh, that was good. Okay.
All right.
Let's start off with a little bit about this podcast and this crime that this episode is about. It came out in February of 2024. There are 6 total episodes, each about 30 to 40 minutes long. And the host is Stephen Davis.
All right, Z, let's get into the story. So this first episode, it's a lot of table setting. We learn just a bunch of fun facts about Antarctica, the people who go there to do various types of jobs, a lot of scientists, a lot of astrophysicists, and we get the bits and pieces of a crime, but there actually isn't really a crime in this episode. Like, there's a murder there's a death that is about to happen as this episode closes, but it's definitely not, we're not sure it's a murder.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing. So we start off with the intro, and I was confused because in the intro it sounded, they introduced this whole scene where this man is arriving up with a hammer and he attacks someone with a hammer. Gets a bit gruesome. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening? But then I was also like, I thought they said, like, from what I'd read about it, that it was going to be like an unconfirmed murder, like it was an accidental murder. And I was like, this doesn't sound very accidental. But then it just cuts to talking about this guy who fell ill and that it was deemed an accidental death. And they brought in, there was a big talk of like government cover up. And I'm just thinking, how are these two things connected?
Yeah, if there was ever a show that I feel like was challenging to listen to only the first episode and then talk about it, like this is it, because this is a very incomplete story, and like this is such a fraction of the whole that if this was all we listened to, I wouldn't be able to tell you what this is about at all.
Yeah, I feel like I'm left with a lot of questions. Like, it's just very confusing. So I had to go back on the intro and I was like, wait a second. Someone with a hammer is coming up and hitting someone over the head. And then someone is talking about saving them. But we don't know who these people are. And then it cuts to this person falling ill. And then it's, as you said, like a lot of scene setting is happening. What life is like there for a lot of people. There's a lot of like laying the foundations for the rest of the podcast.
Yep.
I don't know. I did think the host did a good job of kind of setting this out, like setting this whole scene by connecting the snippets from each. There was good dialogue from each. It's not that I couldn't follow what was happening. It was that I was just left with so many questions.
Yeah. No, I agree. I had a lot of questions. I mean, that was my first and biggest question of like, what's the crime we're talking about? Is there a crime? What was the deal with the hammer? And yeah, because we hear, so the guy at the center of this is a guy named
Rodney.
Dr. Rodney Marks. He's an astrophysicist from, I think, Australia.
Yeah. And so, and we do hear a good bit about that, and we know it's like they're talking about him in the like past tense. Like it's very clear.
Right.
I think that it's him that's murdered. It's just, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to come back to see how successful we feel this first episode was once we hear the rest. Like, how many times have we been introduced to all this scene setting, all this fluffy things, lots of different people in the first episode or maybe 2 episodes, and then they're irrelevant for us, the rest of the story. A lot of people speak here. I didn't feel like we were expected to remember who each person was, but they were laying the foundations of it. So I don't feel like we've got an investment into a lot of other people. I'm just wondering how relevant they're all going to be as we go. Are they just there to help lay those foundations?
Yeah, I don't know. I had to listen. So I listened to it. The first time I listened to it, I really didn't keep track of who anyone was. I recognized that there were different voices. There were people from different countries, right? Like there was an astrophysicist from New Zealand. There was one who sounded like German or Austrian or something. There was an American who was like a cook, had been there as a cook and then came back as a carpenter. That was Dave.
Dave. How do we both remember the American? That's terrible.
Dave. Well, and then there was also this guy, John, who was not there, but he was like a historian and author who was commenting on just like some things about being in Antarctica and about how just bizarre it is there.
It was really cool to listen to, wasn't it?
I took so many notes on things that I just thought were fascinating.
Okay, give me some fascinating facts.
All right. There are 10,000-foot mountains that are buried in ice. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
You don't think about it because there's all the snow, but it's like the driest place on Earth.
Yeah, it's like a desert.
Yeah. How weird is that? It's a desert that's
So weird.
covered in ice.
It's like 2 things that shouldn't be mixed together.
So this takes place at the millennium, and a bunch of people took advantage of being at the South Pole to celebrate the millennium 24 times because you can just go to a different part of the pole and you can go to each time zone every hour.
Yeah, this was so weird because they say that you do this and it takes like 5 or so minutes to get out there and you run around and you come back and then you've got like, I can't remember what they called it, like not frostbite, but ice chills or ice pains or whatever. Like you're hurting after it and like you're not able to breathe properly after it because you've been out. Like, why would you do this?
Because it's cool. It's
Maybe once. I don't know. Is it?
I don't think the people who do this necessarily well, they might not be the most sober.
Fair.
You're in a place where your eyeballs are going to freeze, right? Like this is, yeah. Anyway, what else? Did you know any fun Antarctica facts?
I just loved like hearing some of the phrases or jargon, like getting toasty.
That was my favorite. Describe what getting toasty means.
So basically, when you start off, you're like a piece of white bread, and like everyone is getting along. But as it goes on, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but as it goes on, you're getting kind of crispier and crispier, and you've like less ability to get along with people.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you're in this confined place, and I mean, particularly for their wintering over, where it's dark for 6 months, right? Like there's no sunlight, and yeah, you're with the same small group of people. You get tired of people, right? Like that, you run out of things to say to each other. All those little like things that just sort of bug you about people you might see at work for 8 hours a day, you're with them 24 hours a day for
I
for
don't
maybe 6
know
months.
how many people I could live with like this.
Yeah, not a lot, right?
Like
So yeah,
a
getting toasty.
really small number of people.
So yeah, it's some combination of being just so irritated with the people around you, maybe like a little bit of depression too, right? Like it's a variety of like an
Oh, they
altered mental
discussed
state.
that like there's, do they call it seasonal depression?
I think so. Yeah, they talk about like getting off the 1,000-yard stare, where you
Mm.
just sort of have like a blank kind of stare. And that ties into the other thing that I thought was really interesting about the sensory deprivation of being in Antarctica, where there's just this endless white expanse, and like if you look out at the horizon, like you can't see the horizon because the what's on the ground is white, the sky is white, and it's like they describe it as being inside of a ping pong ball.
It's like they said you can go off a cliff like without
Yeah.
even knowing. Like you can walk off the edge of the cliff not realizing because everything is so white.
Right. Yeah.
Terrifying. It's wild. This got me back to like hearing this, and I think this is why I remembered the guy Dave or David, the American dude, who was like a cook and then came back as a mechanic. Carpenter. He says he got sucked in, and he kept coming back. He spent 14 years there.
It's a long time.
Could you be sucked into working there?
I am fascinated of the idea of going there.
Oh, yeah. For a week, maybe?
Okay. I equate this to like going to the moon or going to Mars, right? Like you're signing up for something really uncomfortable, really unpleasant, really cold.
Do you want to go to the moon or to Mars?
I mean, a little bit. Yeah.
Really? Oh,
But-
jeez.
Why do you say it like that?
It just doesn't seem any fun to me. Like, I'm big into travel. Love a travel. Love moving around the world. Absolutely. Love that. But the moon or Mars, did you hear about the lads that are stuck up in space?
Space station.
Yeah.
Well, but that's because they took Boeing.
Sorry, are you blaming them for choosing the airline that was going to take them into space?
I guess they didn't probably have a choice in how they got up there.
It sounds a bit like victim blaming to me now.
That is kind of crazy because they were supposed to be there for like 2 days. Now they're gonna be there for like 8 months.
I know. Imagine how toasty you'd get there.
Imagine like they're like families.
I know.
Like, oh yeah, I'll see you on Tuesday. I mean, March.
Wild. It just doesn't seem like appealing to me.
So you're talking about Antarctica?
Yeah, well, also space. No, Antarctica I could imagine going, but not for 14 years.
Well, okay, 14 years is a long time to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see a little bit of the appeal, right? It's exciting, right? Like it's an adventure.
Yeah, it's
an
exciting for a
extreme-
week or two.
Okay. All right.
I don't see at all the appeal for spending 6 months without the sun.
No, I think that part would be incredibly hard.
And like the white everywhere. And have you been, didn't you grow up somewhere real cold?
Yes.
Okay, so Paul and I years ago went to get cheap flights at Christmas time when we were students, and we ended up in Oslo in Norway. We were like, this is such a great deal. And it turns out it's real cheap to go there because it's freezing and so expensive. So we couldn't afford to do anything. And I just remembered the two of us like walking around with scarves up to our noses, like everything froze. We were like walking in and out of shops. We didn't have enough money to buy anything, but we'd walk in and out of shops just to like warm up a little bit. It was real sad.
Oh, I feel so bad for you stuck in Oslo, going in and out of shops.
But it was so cold. And I still think about that so much. I remember that feeling on my face. I just don't know. I also don't love the idea of everyone walking around in a balaclava.
That's a very specific thing to not be sure about.
Well, like it's a bit scary, no?
But you know everybody there. There's 49 other people.
But then what happens if you're like sitting around one night and someone with a balaclava comes up and you're like, oh, friend. Oh, wait, he has a hammer.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, you gotta watch people though. It's not The Shining.
I'm like, if you're getting toasty and everyone's getting all crispy and you don't know what people are gonna do.
Yeah, I did want to ask you. So, sort of related to that, the gender balance here. So there's 50 people, 42 men, 8 women.
It's feeling a bit like Ducks.
Oh, Ducks. Yeah, the graphic novel we read
Yeah.
about the oil
Yeah.
fields in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Ducks by Kate Beaton. It's based on her actual experience working at oil fields, tar sands in Canada, where it was 90% men.
Yeah. Oh God, I actually hadn't thought about that yet for this podcast. Is that what we're going to get into now?
I hope not. I did do a little extra research on Antarctica and crimes, and there's definitely a lot of articles about assault and women getting treated very badly in this massively male-dominated world. But I don't know. I don't know that that's what this is about. I don't think that's what this story is about.
At one point, the chef... I have questions about this. The chef quits?
There are 3 cooks or chefs who are responsible for feeding all 50 people.
And one of them quits.
Yes.
Where does he go? Like, I thought all the planes were gone.
What a great question. So...
Do you know the answer?
Well, he doesn't go anywhere.
So he just stays there, but he's not working.
Yeah. So I did also... So I looked up a couple of things, just generally about how...
But they just left that hanging there. You can't just say, like, he quit. Like, where did he go? He can't go to the next restaurant next door. There's no one else around.
Maybe it'll be in the next 5 episodes.
I know, but you can't just leave that dangling. I was like, where did he go?
Do you want me to tell you a fact that I learned about when things happen in Antarctica?
Go for it.
So, for example, if someone commits a crime of any kind, basically, they just say, all right, go to your room. It's like, they don't like, there's no like jail cell.
Well here.
Well, because where are they going to go? They're not going to run. It's 800 miles to the next base, and they would never make it. Pretty much you're just stuck where you are until summer comes.
Seems like a real bad idea.
Which part? To quit your job, to go in the first place?
To go in the first place, but knowing that you're going to potentially, like, hate it.
I think it pays well.
I
mean, that's why people go to the tar sands in Canada, right? It's
the same with the mines in Australia.
Yeah, it's a high-paying job, or it's a job that is accessible to people who maybe don't have other options.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I had some other questions for you. So one of the things they say is how you end up there. So they make you go through like a training program. You do have to pass like a physical. You also have to pass a 350-question psych test.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to test like how toasty you're going to get. I want to ask you, T, how do you think you do on that test?
That feels like a loaded question. I don't know. I feel like I'm a person who gets on with people, but I also...
How do you think people get on with you?
Oh. Well, I would think.
Do you think you have the type of personality that would thrive in this type of environment?
I wouldn't say thrive.
Why not? Why do you feel that way?
I don't know if anyone would thrive in this environment. Like, everyone is annoying at times.
Can you think of anyone that you could spend 6 months in the dark with?
I don't know if I could say that I would happily spend 6 months with anyone in this scenario. It just feels so bleak to me. I mean, obviously my husband, he'd probably be the easiest person because he's signed up to this. He can't leave anyway. He knows what he's gotten himself into.
He's kind of committed.
So I'd be hard pressed to choose, I suppose, a couple of friends. Now, if any of my friends listen and I haven't chosen them, but I don't think they'd want to be with me for 6 months in the dark.
Which do you think is more likely to happen? That they would drive you nuts or you would drive them nuts?
I'd say they'd drive me nuts. But I'd probably drive them nuts as well. Who doesn't drive someone nuts in this scenario is what I'm saying. And that's why the getting toasty I thought was so funny.
Well, let me ask you this a different way. What type of person do you think thrives in this environment?
I don't know if anyone does. Maybe you'd have to be oblivious to other people. Or maybe you'd have to be a person who just couldn't care less what anyone else thinks. And they're just going to go in and get on with it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think someone who maybe is just more reserved or...
More reserved than who?
I don't know. Just thinking of an abstract, outgoing, talkative person. I don't know. Just generally speaking.
More of an
introvert. I think an introvert might do better in this environment than an extrovert. right? Because I think an extrovert is constantly wanting to be around people, both to kind of suck in their energy and to project energy, and that's probably grading over time, right? Like the reason that works in the real world is because you're not in a confined space with the same small group of, I mean, when people are, it goes poorly. But I think I don't know. I'm curious what the 350 question psych test is trying to get
I
at.
know. Kind of want to see it. Maybe we can get it online. Jeff, are there many people that you could spend 6 months in the dark with?
Other than my wife. No. No. I mean, I'm thinking of some of those friends where you can kind of just be in the same room with them, or like on a car ride. Like the type of person you go on a car ride with and be okay just not talking. I think that's the kind of person. And I have a couple friends like that.
I mean, though, extroverts are also like into that as well. I love a quiet car journey.
Dee, I've been in a car with you.
Not for a long time.
No, that's true. Mostly short trips, but they've never been quiet.
I see what you're saying here. For to bear in mind other people, I should not be going on an expedition to Antarctica. Is that what you're saying?
You might not be on my list.
That's not what I was asking. If I was going with you, you just don't think I should go for anyone else's sake. I should avoid it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's maybe what I'm getting at. Okay.
That's real harsh.
All right.
How do I slam the door of a podcast?
How eager are you to keep listening to this?
I have too many questions not to be interested in continuing to listen to this. I'm there for the scene. Love that this is such a different scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I picked it, right? Like I thought, like, this is a place we've never done before, and it's such an interesting place. It's an unusual place. There aren't a lot of stories about it. So I have actually read a bunch of books about Antarctica, not about this topic, but about the first explorers, Scott and Amundsen, and then also Shackleton, people who were trying to get to the pole. And I don't know. I just think it's there are a lot of interesting stories there.
Are you eager to keep listening?
Definitely eager to keep listening. I was all in from the beginning on this one. I definitely want to know what the deal is with that hammer story. I hope we come back to that. I presume we'll come back to that.
It'd be funny if we just didn't. I'd never speak of it again.
That would be very weird. I also wanted to say, too, in terms of it comparing to anything else that we've listened to, this is maybe not an apples to apples comparison, but I feel like it reminded me a little bit of Crossbow Killer.
Really?
Well, let me say why.
Oh, sorry. I'm not allowed to react.
I think one of the things that we both really liked about the Crossbow Killer podcast was it was very kind of moody. Right? Like it really put an emphasis on kind of setting the scene and kind of building the landscape. And these are very different landscapes, and they do it in different ways. Right? There's no poetry in this one, which would have been cool, but that's okay. What about you? Do you think it's comparable to anything else we listened to?
I hadn't thought of Crossbow Killer, but I think that's a good comparison. It feels no is the short answer. I hadn't thought of Crossbow Killer, but now that you say it, yeah, I kind of get it. Obviously, totally different setting and everything, but it is kind of similar in way. The moodiness. I never really thought to describe it as moody. It was pretty moody. Before we get to our true crime question of the week, don't forget to join us on Patreon. Patreon.com/so much crime, so little time.
And also, if you haven't yet, please rate us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. We appreciate it for everyone who has given us a 5-star rating. But if you haven't yet, go do it right now.
So, Jeff, our true crime question of the week. How long would you last in Antarctica before turning to murder or other crimes? From our discussion earlier, it feels to me like if I was there, the timeline might be shortened for you.
I think I would last at least 3 days before turning to murder.
Jesus.
No, I think I would. Okay. I guess another way of thinking about this is, so there's how long would you last? And there's what do you think would be the factor that would most cause you to flip? Like, is it the darkness? Is it the cold? Is it the sensory deprivation? Is it the people? Is it the food? Is it the work?
I mean, it's hard to know really until you're in it. But But I would say the people, you always have an option to disengage with people.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it might be the darkness, where, you know, the way they were describing going out and like your nose freezing, your nostrils, like all, I can imagine all your like nose hairs and everything like, getting icically and stuff like that. Well, that stuff now would stress me out.
Frozen boogers. That's what's going to get you.
Just, you know, that feeling of having a frozen nose, and it just feels like
I know it well, Dee.
It's
many times.
It's so uncomfortable. And then they were talking about like your hair freezing, like on your head.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a no from me. But as much as you think, I actually think I would last quite. I think I could do 2 months in this place.
2 months.
Yeah.
In the dark.
Yeah, not before turning to murder or other crimes. But I think like I'm pretty resilient. I think I'd have to get over an initial hump of like being pissed off, and then I'd be fine.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good.
It's better than 3 days.
I think, to kind of answer it similar to how you answered it, I think it's the darkness that would get to me more than anything else. I think I would miss the sun.
Yeah, you see, I grew up in Ireland.
The cold wouldn't get to me because, yeah, I feel like I'm used to that. I actually, and it's easy to say we're recording this in like a hot day in California, and I'm thinking back to when I used to live in like Wisconsin or Colorado, and I kind of miss the cold sometimes. If I say that, but like when I lived in those places, or like when I lived in Maine, by like the 3rd month of it, it was pretty wearying. But knowing that it's going to get better, even if it's 3 months away or 6 months away, like knowing that it'll get a little bit warmer. But the darkness, I don't know. I'd really miss the sun. I don't know how you do that. Like just how you sleep, like it's going to throw off your like circadian rhythms and like your.
Yeah, but by the signs of it, they're working so hard that they just conk out.
I guess so.
Maybe that's what would push me over the edge if someone was like a really bad sleeper, like snoring really loudly and kept us all awake.
Yeah. I mean, that might be a reason to smother someone in their sleep.
Might be warranted. Do they have separate rooms?
I don't know.
I don't think they mentioned that.
No.
So that makes a big difference if you're able to shut your door.
I don't think if you had roommates, you'd come back. The plane would come back in the summer and there'd be half as many people.
That's true. So
right?
you think but like, I mean, look at the space station.
Yeah, how does that work on the space station? Because they're all just kind of like in one kind of space together.
They have like these pods that they like stand in, like this, for sleeping.
Like vampires.
Yeah, because I forgot we're doing a podcast so no one could see. But I'm pretty sure that's how they do it, because they have to secure themselves so they don't just float around. Is it your man Chris Hadfield, the bass guy, who he used to take Zoom calls with schools and like show them around? And he had loads of YouTube videos. Yeah. And like we got him in our school a couple of times. It was really cool to see the kids asking him questions. And he's like, yeah.
Floating around.
That's
really cool.
Anyway, he's not killing people. I think I'd be fine. Glad to know you'd only last 3 days. Won't be going to Antarctica with you anytime soon.
All right. It's a deal. Next time, we'll recap all of the secret history of Antarctica, death on the ice.
Is there really a murder, or did Jeff trick me into a true crime story with no crime?
Wouldn't that be a crime in and of itself, thereby making this still a true crime story?
No. That's on the next So Much Crime,
So Little Time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Calariso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show in your podcast app. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.